everyone. Welcome to my channel. My name is Catherine Rule. Be sure to hit the subscribe, like, and share button down below. Today I have Jen Falkowski with me, and she is a fellow indigo specialist and dyer. I'm so excited to talk to her. Hi, Jen. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm hanging in there.
Yeah. That's the most we can hope for.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Tell the viewers a little bit about yourself and your art practice.
Sure. Yeah. I'm an artist based out of Madison, Wisconsin, and I dye with indigo. I actually paint and draw and do all kinds of stuff. But as soon as I started dyeing with indigo, I mean, that's just such a rabbit hole. So I fell right down it, and I've been. It's almost been a decade now. I've been dyeing with indigo, doing shibori, selling textiles here in Madison locally at quilt shops and stuff. And doing as many talks as I can, because I love teaching, and talking is really my favorite thing.
Cool. Yeah. I met you through Facebook. I am a member of your Indigo
The Indigo Dye Facebook group is just exploded. I think we've got almost 7,000 people in there, which is a wackadoodle to me. Like, I just wanted a place where I could ask questions about indigo, because as a teacher I felt kind of weird, like how does this work? So I thought, oh, I'll just start like a learning group. And wow, yep, I guess a lot of people had questions about indigo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love the group. I've met like a lot of cool people, and I think it's a great resource. And thank you for putting that together and doing that. I'm sure it takes quite a lot of your time. So
It does a bit, yeah.
yeah,
A little bit. You know, I have a couple of admins actually who help a lot.
So when did you start the group?
Oh gosh, I'm bad at numbers. Maybe a couple years ago, not that long ago. Yeah. Because there was a Shibori Indigo group. There's that indigo pigment extraction group, and there's Indigoing Blue, which is more like a Skumo group. And I just wanted something where all the indigo was okay, because a lot of people use synthetic indigo, and they had questions. So
right,
I started it.
Do you usually use natural or synthetic, or do you use both, or how do you
use both?
Yeah.
They both have their, good and bad qualities. I definitely will say, like, as a small scale dyer, I think synthetic indigo is completely fine, as long as you're not selling it as natural indigo when you make stuff.
Right.
As long as you're responsible with it. It's not like we're polluting major water systems, like say a jeans company or something. We're doing a small amount. So, and it's easy, it's accessible.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
and when I use synthetic a lot too, because it's just pretty consistent and it's easy.
Yeah.
And you can make like a little baby vat, like.
I know. I like watching your dye videos, actually, because I've never seen anyone use those like a really baby little vat, and you must make them really strong. I love watching your videos because you do it your own way.
Thank you.
I appreciate. It's
That's
like my
for
favorite
sure.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm in an apartment, so it's like I wish I had a yard. I wish I had space, but for now, like it's apartment dyeing. So
right. So I will say I do use the natural too, and I like a henna vat, and it just smells so much better.
Oh.
And it's way less stinky. It's got like an earthy smell.
Yeah.
So they all have their good and bad, qualities.
Right. That's a good tip for henna. So tell me a little bit. I mean, we've kind of been talking, but tell me about like your process with everything. So you do also quilting and painting. So tell us about that and everything.
Yeah. So gosh, that's a lot of things. So with the dyeing, actually, I had a studio in a local quilt shop, which was so awesome. And so again, my favorite thing really is teaching. And so I taught classes there at least once a month, and I had an open studio there. And then I could go in, especially as the holidays were coming up, and do a big dye session so I could sell stuff. And I actually broke that down and took everything home, because they let me keep it there, and the store's doing fine. But I felt bad because I couldn't teach there anymore because of the pandemic. So everything was just sitting there and taking up their space, and the vats were molding. It was like, this is not good. So actually, I'm sitting amidst so much chaos because I have all the stuff from that studio and all the stuff from the studio here. So my process is a little kooky right now in that I'm really not doing much of anything because I have no space for anything. So, but overall, I like doing a bunch of shibori, getting a bunch ready, and then I have a little bit of a bat problem in that I get attached to them, and I don't want to throw them away, so, especially the natural ones. So I have like a bat outside. I have a bat in I have 3 bats in my garage. I have bats in my basement. So it gets a little chaotic when I'm actually dyeing. And then lately I've been dyeing a lot of solids because with the natural vats, and when I say henna vat, it's an indigo vat that's reduced with henna. So those get weaker over time, and I don't like to wake them. I don't like to add more indigo because that the indigo pigment powder is incredibly expensive and should be because it's hard to make. So as it gets weaker, I just let it get weaker and I dye lighter blues. And so it's not so good for shibori, which is nice to have contrast. So I end up just dyeing more solids with those, and I keep them really, I don't know that you ever need to throw them away. I'm sure it runs out of indigo eventually, but wow, it takes a long time.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then those I use to make quilts. I really love the solids with quilts.
I love your quilts. I just love they're crazy quilts essentially, right? Or they're quilting or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Yeah. So that improv quilting book came out, I was like, wow, those are techniques. I thought I was just faking things and it was working. So that was kind of an empowering thing to read. But yeah, so definitely all improv quilts. I don't like following patterns.
I can follow a pattern, but I prefer to just do it. And then I also like to just like let the fabric tell me where it wants to go. And that's part of the fun of it, is just like looking at it like light, dark, medium, you know.
Right. Because it does, I mean, especially if you're like all blues or whatever, they talk to each other.
Yeah.
It's really fun and exciting to be part of that conversation, I guess. That sounds so cheesy, but yeah.
It's not cheesy. It's awesome.
Yeah.
And what kind of classes have you taken? How self-taught are you? How did you get, I mean, you've been doing this for a while. How did you evolve as an indigo dyer?
Yeah, let's see. It actually started, a friend of mine and I were hoping to teach classes together. And I read this real cheeseball craft magazine article about woad. And I was like, oh, that sounds like something that would be, so I always think of all the classes I teach and stuff, and I'm very process oriented, that it's a cure for perfection, because you're getting in there, it's a mess, you're not quite sure what's going to happen, and it's always beautiful, right? Because it's blue and white. So she did a little research and was like, no, woad is expensive and hard to find. Let's do indigo. And so we did. So I actually started indigo as a way to teach my sort of philosophy of imperfectionism, I guess. And
I love that.
Oh yeah, I know. I thought I made it up, but no, someone beat me to it, and there's a book already out. But so yeah, so I started off teaching it, and then just, I don't know, like I said, it's a rabbit hole. There's so much to learn. There's so many different ways to do it. It's just such a rich dye. It's so exciting to do. So taking classes too. I have taken some, and highly recommend it. I took, the first thing I did was go out to Botanical Colors and do a 1-day studio workshop with Kathy Hattori. And I went with specific questions. She had like a deal, 2 for 1, 2 people for the price of 1 for a studio day. So I actually went with a total stranger and I had specific questions about indigo, and I wanted to switch it up from a synthetic to a natural vat. And so we spent the day dyeing with indigo, and it was a blast. And she was a very generous teacher, so highly recommend her. And then I went back to take a class with Abubakar Fofana. And that's just a week long, right? He was pretty awesome. Just a week long class.
Where did you do that?
That was at Botanical Colors as well.
In Wisconsin?
In Seattle. No, she's in Seattle.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, I see.
Yeah. Sorry, Kathy Hattori's in Seattle, Botanical Colors.
Oh, cool. You know, I'm from Seattle originally.
Oh, are you?
Yeah. That's
so cool there.
I had no idea.
Yeah, it's like Madison on steroids, like way more people in Madison, and also an ocean, which we don't. Yeah. So yeah, it's a really cool town.
Yeah.
And so I learned a lot from him as well. But that's just a week-long class. Like I don't have a degree in it. I have a degree in theater.
Mm.
So that's useful. Yeah, and I've taken some in Shibori classes. I went to AO Studios in Florida and took a class with Annalisa Hedstrom. She's a really great Shibori teacher. If you get a chance to take a class with her, highly recommend it. And I'm actually right now taking Shibori Stream with Jane Callender. She does that Kali Shibori, incredibly detailed, intricate Shibori, which I am not keeping up on, but it's a lot of fun. I'm a huge proponent of taking classes. I love it. I love teaching them. So it's all like, I love learning stuff and I love helping people learn stuff.
That's cool. So you're like you have a teacher's heart.
I guess so. Yeah. Which is funny because I hated school. I homeschooled my kids, didn't want them to be in the school system, but yeah, I like teaching in a, like not a school way. Yeah.
That's awesome. Where do you look for inspiration for all your stuff?
Yeah. Definitely the quilting, like when I first started sewing things and making stuff with textiles, I loved it and I didn't know what to do because I didn't think I was up for sewing clothes, though I've gotten there, but this was years ago. And I don't like quilts. Like when I look at the really clean, tidy, points lined up, patterny quilts, I thought like, I don't want to do that. And when I first saw the Quilt Sub G's Bend, which my quilts are nothing like, it just was like, oh, you can actually make, you can make any kind of quilt. It doesn't even have to be a rectangle. You can do anything. And that was really a freeing thing. So that was a huge, huge inspiration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forget exactly the exhibit I went to, but I think it was in DC. I went to a quilt, like they had a lot of quilts and they were all like crazy quilts. And they were all made like a long time ago and they were made from like straight up scraps, and it was like, they were beautiful. And they were like thin fabric, thick fabric, like
right. All the things that are rules you're not supposed to break. And it's like, oh yeah, you can do whatever you want. That's awesome.
And they were in an art museum and I was like, these are amazing. So
these are amazing. Yeah. And I started with scraps because I wasn't dying back then. I think my first quilt I used leftover flannel and denim from pants, from old jeans. And I made quite a few denim quilts in my early quilting days. Man, they're heavy.
Yeah. Keep you warm.
Yeah, for sure.
And we kind of touched on the Facebook group, but tell us a little bit about social media and how that's, influenced your career and helped you.
Sure. Yeah. It's interesting because sometimes like I go on and I'm like, oh, I feel terrible. I can't do anything. You start comparing yourself. But if you don't do that, it's a great way to connect with other artists and get more inspiration. I think I'm really probably most active on Instagram. Meet a lot of people that way, and it's a double-edged sword, I guess. Like everything, I guess. But it's a huge thing. I mean, there's no way you're making art and making things and not online, right? Because you have to meet people, and there's so much to look at. Like I'm always struck by when I started dyeing with indigo, like 10 years ago, there were so few dyers on. Indigo dyers and Shibori artists, and now we're all over the place. You can find so many people to connect with who are doing what you're doing and interested in indigo or interested in making patterns. So yeah, I don't know, it's great. The indigo dye group is great, but I think on Instagram I meet people from all over the world. I connected with a lady in Nigeria, and actually she was teaching an online class, and I did a section of her class. Taught a section of her class because she wanted an indigo teacher. Yeah, like when am I ever going to get a chance to do that? That was pretty cool.
That's amazing. Yeah. I think it can be a really amazing tool to like meet people and be introduced to new ideas and see what other people are doing, and also like just like do your own thing. Like there's no rules. Like you can just post your thing, and then for me, when I first started posting stuff that I was making, because like I went to art school and like it took me a long time to even like be comfortable saying I'm an artist, right? I don't know why, but it's
That's
just,
an issue for so many people.
it's true. And it was so scary to post stuff, and I was worried people would like say mean things, but really it doesn't happen that much, and it's mostly positive, and mostly people want to just connect, and it's been a very positive thing. And
yeah, for sure.
and that's why I wanted to do these these interviews, to kind of like meet new people and talk about their process and their challenges and, you know, everything. What's your biggest challenge when it comes to creativity and making your art and everything?
Yeah, I would say my incredibly poor time management. I I'm easily distracted, I guess, you know, and then there's always that sort of, for me anyway, tension between like, I'm an artist, I make things, I'm an entrepreneur, I want to get my stuff out in the world. And I think there's a real tension there, because they're they can get along, I guess, but I don't know how to do that. You know, I get lost in like, I'm setting up a website, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and like days go by and I haven't made anything, and I start to get a little tense, you know, like I need to have that making going on. And then I think too, like I was making these tunics and selling them, and it was going really well, and then like I figured them out. I don't want to do it anymore. Like, to like figure out something that sells and make it successful and go on is like an entrepreneur thing. To figure something out and be like, well, it's time to move on to the next thing, is like an artist thing, I think.
I totally relate to that.
Yeah. Right. And that's, you know, I don't know, it gets irritating, because I'd like to be able to just depend on this fun stuff to make a living, but on the other hand, maybe that's not a great idea. Maybe it needs to be, I would call it a jobby, like a hobby job.
A jobby.
Yeah. A jobby. Yeah.
I love it. So you talk about being a teacher and getting the message of creativity out. So what advice would you give to someone who's like scared or just trying to get on the train of making stuff?
Just, I'm not gonna say just do it. It's okay to play. It's okay to make shitty art. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. And you don't have to compare yourself to other people. Just go out and make something crappy. It's fine. You know, you're always going to start crappy. Like I say to people in my classes, like, if you came to this class and you had no problem, everything made sense to you, you knocked it together, and everything was perfect. Like, what are you doing here? You're supposed to make mistakes, and this is a learning piece, and it's okay to be a beginner, I guess. You know, and a lot of people feel pressure to be good at something right away.
Yeah.
And most stuff with Shibori too, and dyeing, your hands have to learn it. It's like a muscle memory. So your brain's just getting in the way. Just go and make stuff.
Yeah. I think it's hard to describe like pulling it tight enough, or you know, like
tension's the hardest thing to describe too.
And measuring, eyeballing it.
Yeah, right. That just takes you're not going to do it right until you make the mistakes. So you have to let yourself make them.
Yeah. And I mean, I do things all the time that I think are going to be awesome, and then they're not, or I'll do something that I just think is, oh, I don't know, I'll try it, and then it's awesome.
Right.
So
totally.
It's just hard to know.
Those expectations will get you every time. So let expectation, I mean, it's not going to go away, because that's just human. Like, I even fall for that trap where I'm like, oh, it's supposed to be this.
Right.
But if you make something and you have this expectation and it doesn't meet your expectation, I would say put it away for a couple of weeks, go make something else. And when you come back to it, you're like, oh, that was actually pretty awesome. I just expected it to be something else.
Right.
Yeah. Because expectations they're just killer on creativity.
Yeah. And perfectionism.
Yes. That stuff will get you.
So what upcoming projects are you going to be working on this fall?
Gosh, I don't know. You know, it's funny. I had so much heading into the spring. I was going to do an installation at our local contemporary art museum. I had classes coming up. I had someone coming into town to teach a big class. I had so much going on. And I had stuff, I'm like looking over here because all the tunics are right here because I had to pick them up from the shop because they stopped carrying anything like that. It was a quilt shop that sold stuff in the back. So I really took all that in and trying to just focus on making things, trying things, learning new things, and not really putting my stuff out there like I used to. It's definitely more internal. I definitely feel more blanket 40 still, even though it's been months. So my focus is really going to be on, I guess, learning and just making stuff. And I might even just keep it all, some of it to myself, which I probably won't. That's really not what I do. But, you know, just really trying to sort of go internal with some of the stuff, which is not that exciting to watch, but sorry.
That's okay.
Necessary part of the process.
Yeah. And do you have a place where you sell online the tunics and the
not at the moment.
No.
I did they had a pop-up craft fair here, crafty fair, and I saw in the tunics. Another thing with the tunics too is you know, I buy them from China. They're the price has gone up, but also just this whole movement of being aware of how the things we do affect other people, all the Black Lives Matters movement, all that's going on right now. And I feel like I can no longer sell them. So I don't, like, in my right consciousness, I don't feel right buying and selling things that way. I want to be more conscientious because it is having an impact on the world. So I was selling them online through this crafty fair and just sending all the money to the Black Lives Matter movement in Madison. So if I do put them online, I'm going to do it that. And I'm definitely moving out of dyeing pre-made goods, you know, blanks like that, and moving to something more creative and trying to buy stuff more ethically, I guess.
Right.
But yeah, that's a long answer to a short question. Sorry.
It's okay. That's awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing the new stuff you come up with this fall. If you do share it, I hope you do, but you know, I respect the process and I get it. Like sometimes for me, I totally understand the tension between running the successful business and then just wanting to create new fun things. And it's hard to balance it. And
you need to feed that creative part too. If you're always selling, it's draining on that part of yourself.
Yeah. And I think also, like, you know, to have that successful business or successful, just like even like an Instagram or anything, you know, you have to be pretty disciplined and you have to like follow the rules or whatever. And it's like, sometimes that is not the same energy that can be, that fuels creativity and play, like you were saying. So, and I've talked to multiple people who talk about that, like how, you know, I was talking to someone who has a very successful blog, and she's like, she has a full-time job, and she's like, that my full-time job is my job. Like, this is like something that I do to like kind of like feed my soul, and I want to keep it that way. For her, that's what works. And you know, for me, I'm always trying to kind of figure that out. And you know, so I think
we all are.
Yeah, that's
like a lot of people who, I hear that a lot. Yeah,
and so it's just really fun to connect to other people who enjoy doing art, and I love all your like pictures and your processes, and you're a true connector.
Yeah.
And I love that about you. And you know, it's really important. So I'm just so happy I got to talk to you, and thank you for coming and sharing everything with my audience. And we're going to put your information in the show notes so they can go check out everything. So anyway, thank you everyone for coming and tuning in. Be sure to hit the subscribe, like, and share buttons, and go check out Jen's website and social media. Thank you for coming. Bye.